lobbied for the passage of the Uniform State Narcotic Act, where he required the states to take care of the drug control problem. Only 9 states initially agreed, so Anslinger launched a nationwide media campaign and eventually got all propaganda campaign got all 50 states to sign on. In 1936, the propaganda film Reefer Madness came out, and it clearly stated that smoking marijuana gives you temporary insanity. In the film, a woman smokes marijuana, and her boyfriend does as well, and she laughs hysterically as he beats another man to death. On October 2nd, 1937, without any open debate, scientific inquiry, or political objection, President Roosevelt signed the marijuana tax law, where you had to get tax stamps to grow marijuana. But the problem was that they weren't even giving out any of the marijuana tax stamps, so therefore it was still illegal in the United States. On that very same day, the FBI and Denver police raided the Lexington Hotel and arrested 2 people, Samuel R. Caldwell and a 58-year-old unemployed laborer, and he became the first in the U.S. to be convicted of selling marijuana. All he had was 2 joints. He was fined $1,000 and had to spend 4 years of hard labor in Leavenworth Penitentiary, and Caldwell died a year after his release. Fiorello LaGuardia, the mayor of New York, spoke out against this marijuana tax stamp. LaGuardia commissioned a 6-year study by a group of 31 impartial scientists to do an in-depth scientific analysis. They came up with it does not cause psychotic episodes, not responsible for antisocial behavior, it does not cause uncontrollable sexual urges, and it does not alter a person's core personality. In 1944, the Commission published a report of the findings, scientifically disproving all of Anslinger's propaganda and outlandish claims. But once again, Anslinger used his muscle with the press to discredit the report, destroy all copies that were made that he could find, and successfully blocked any further research that could be done on marijuana. On a roll, he got President Eisenhower on board. The Narcotic Control Act put marijuana in the same drug class as heroin and added even more severe drug penalties. In Missouri, a second conviction for possession of marijuana was eligible for a life sentence. Despite the propaganda, marijuana increased in popularity on college campuses. In 1965, an estimated 1 million Americans had tried marijuana. With events like Woodstock and popular groups like the Grateful Dead, smoking marijuana was part of our pop culture. In 1972, approximately 24 million Americans had tried marijuana. This is when Nixon finally won the election. He felt that most of the criminal handling was done by the states, so he launched Operation Intercept, where he put 2,000 custom agents on the Mexican border. This was the beginning of our border control, to control the Mexicans. He didn't have a single drug bust in the 3 weeks that they were out there, and they searched 5 million people. So there, he decided that since he couldn't do that, he moved on to trying to do the task force of making a drug team, and then that's when the marijuana bust started actually happening. A 25-year-old Vietnam veteran, Don Crow, was convicted of selling marijuana to an undercover cop, and it was his first offense with under an ounce, and he got 50 years in prison. At a Senate hearing on marijuana in 1969, Dr. Stanley Yoles estimated 8 to 12 million people in the U.S. smoked marijuana and urged Congress to abolish mandatory minimum sentencing for drug offenses. Congress took the advice and passed the Controlled Substance Act, which eliminated mandatory minimums and reduced penalties for the possession of marijuana. In the 80s, Reagan administration launched his own war on drugs. An average of 1 person every 38 seconds was arrested for marijuana. Judge Francis Law, an actual DEA administrative law judge, held hearings on the medical benefits of marijuana and came back and said, "It is clearly established medical use and recommend that it is reclassified as a prescription drug. However, no action was taken to reclassify the marijuana based on the law's findings." At Temple University, research is also being done on synthetic marijuana. Meanwhile, the U.S. government, which supposedly has nothing to do with medical marijuana and is trying to have this stand on marijuana, has actually put a U.S. patent on medical marijuana that protects cannabinoids as antioxidants and neuroprotectants. Okay, now I want to give you a little bit of the history on marijuana. I want to actually tell you a little bit of how it works, so why people benefit from it. It actually has a chemical in it called THC, or tetrahydrocannabinol, which is in its buds, leaves, and its flowers. And that's the chemical in it that gets you that high feeling. It relieves pain and helps with anxiety and stress of many, many conditions. And there's probably close to 100 things that it could help with, if not more. It's less harmful than even tobacco and alcohol, which are supposedly regulated in the United States. And the Federal Institute of Medicine did a 1999 study and said that 10% of marijuana users meet the standards for dependence, and actually 15% on alcohol, with a whole 32% on tobacco. There's been many uses for medical marijuana as well. There's actually a 1941 Ford Model T car that's a hemp car and used strictly hemp ethanol fuel. It was purely recycled pretty much, and they came out with hemp plastics. And there's ropes, and there's all sorts of things that you can come up with. I actually have a little aid. If you want to look at that, there's a little bit. Now that you know more about the history, and you can obviously tell there's a lot of controversy on the topic, I want to tell you a little bit more about it being legalized in Idaho. There's actually an Idaho Medical Choice Act that can